A shy black waitress calls the Japanese mafia boss to return his lost wallet, unaware it was a test. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now let's continue. Cecilia Jackson never asks for much. At 23, she is a nursing student who spends her days buried in textbooks and her nights waiting tables at Joanna's Diner, a tired little place on the edge of the city. The diner flickers under a buzzing neon sign that barely clings to life. The air smells of coffee, fried bacon, and 1,000 old meals that have come and gone. To most people, it is just another stop in the night, but to Cecilia, it is survival. Her life is built on routine. She wipes down tables, refills coffee cups, memorizes anatomy diagrams during slow hours, and smiles through exhaustion. It is not the life she imagined for herself, but it is the one she fights to keep moving through. The dream that pushes her forward never fades. Finishing school, becoming a nurse, and one day walking into a hospital wearing that white coat. The thought of it keeps her going, even when her hands ache and her eyes sting from lack of sleep. Tonight is quiet. The last customer has left, and the diner hums with the low buzz of the refrigerator and the faint rain tapping on the window. Cecilia moves through the silence, cleaning the counter, her mind already drifting to the quiz she has on Monday. She plans to review her notes before bed, though she knows she will probably fall asleep before finishing the first page. Then she sees it, a wallet. At first, she barely notices it. It sits half hidden between the cracked cushions of booth 7, the one near the window. But something about it catches her attention. It is too clean, too elegant to belong in this place. She leans closer and pulls it free. The leather feels rich and smooth beneath her fingertips, the color a deep burgundy that glows faintly under the diner's lights. Cecilia opens it carefully. Inside there are 2 neat stacks of $100 bills held together by a polished silver clip engraved with an intricate pattern. Each bill is crisp, perfectly aligned, untouched. She counts quickly, $4,000. Her breath catches. There is an ID card beside the money. The name reads Aoi Mido. The address belongs to a gated community in the wealthiest part of the city. The photo draws her attention instantly. The man in the picture has striking features, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that seem to look through the camera rather than at it. He wears a calm expression that feels controlled, powerful. He looks like someone who commands attention without speaking. Beside the ID lies a plain business card. It carries only a phone number and a small symbol that looks foreign, maybe Korean. No company name, no logo, no title. The entire wallet feels deliberate, like every item inside has been chosen carefully. Cecilia stares at the money again. $4,000. That amount could change everything. Tuition, rent, textbooks, maybe even a small car to stop taking the night bus through rough neighborhoods. The temptation sits heavy in her chest. Her grandmother's voice echoes in her mind, steady and familiar. There is no peace in stolen comfort. Sleep soundly on your own dime. Cecilia exhales slowly and snaps the wallet shut. She knows what she has to do. She has found lost wallets before, but none like this. Something about this one feels wrong. It feels like a mistake she cannot afford to make. Still, she hesitates. The money glows in her imagination. She can almost see the bills covering her tuition slip, but she shakes the thought away. The right thing is still the right thing, no matter how tired or broke she is. She picks up the old diner phone from the counter, its yellowed plastic cool against her palm, and dials the number written on the business card. The line rings once, twice. A voice answers, deep and rough. "Speak." "Hello," she begins, steadying her tone. "My name is Cecilia Jackson. I work at Joanna's Diner. I think one of your associates, a Mr. Aoi Mido, left his wallet here. I'd like to return it." There is a pause, an unnerving silence that stretches longer than it should. Then the voice replies, colder now. "Hold." The line clicks. When it opens again, the voice that comes through is smoother, calm, and controlled. It slides through the phone like smoke. "This is Aoi Mido. You have my property, Miss Jackson." Her heart skips. "Yes, sir. I found it at the diner. I can hold on to it or meet you to return it." "You will stay where you are," he says. His tone carries no anger, only command. "Do not let the wallet out of your sight. Understand?" "Yes, sir," she answers softly. "Good. A driver will arrive in 15 minutes. You will hand it to him. Do not engage him beyond confirming the wallet. Understood?" "Yes." The line goes dead. Cecilia stands motionless for a moment, staring at the receiver in her hand. She sets it down slowly and looks at the wallet on the counter. The air feels heavier now, the room smaller. It feels like she has stepped into something bigger than she realizes. She glances at the clock. 15 minutes. The diner feels colder than before. The hum of the fridge sounds louder. She wipes her hands on her apron, though they are already clean. Each minute stretches, slow and deliberate. She tries to study the face on the ID again, as if it might explain what kind of man commands strangers with such confidence. The rain outside grows stronger. Water streams down the window, distorting the neon glow into streaks of pink and blue. When the door chime finally rings, Cecilia jumps. A man steps inside. He is tall, his shoulders broad beneath a long black coat. His face is calm, but unreadable. His movements precise. He surveys the diner as if he is assessing every detail. His eyes land on Cecilia. "You have something that belongs to Mr. Mido," he says, his voice even. Cecilia nods and slides the wallet across the counter toward him. Her fingers tremble slightly as they leave the leather. The man opens it briefly, checks its contents, and slips it into his coat pocket. He reaches into another pocket and places a thick manila envelope on the counter. "Mr. Mido appreciates your honesty." Cecilia looks at the envelope, confused. "What is this?" "His gratitude," the man replies. Before she can respond, he turns toward the door. The sound of rain swallows his footsteps as he leaves. The envelope sits in front of her, heavy and silent. She opens it slowly. Inside, she finds a thick stack of $100 bills, 5,000 in total, and a folded note written in elegant, deliberate handwriting. She reads the words carefully. "Miss Jackson, an interesting choice. You have prioritized principle over profit in a world that seldom rewards it. Your name is now associated with a trait I require. Do not spend the funds immediately. Do not mention this to anyone. You have passed the preliminary vetting. Wait for contact." Her pulse quickens. She reads the note again, then again, as if repetition might change the meaning. She has no idea what she has just been pulled into, but she knows her life has shifted. The rain outside beats harder against the windows. Cecilia closes the envelope and looks around the diner. Everything looks the same: the worn booths, the old jukebox, the smell of coffee. But she feels like she is standing in a different world now. Her reflection in the window stares back at her, pale and uncertain. The note's words echo in her mind. Wait for contact. Cecilia stands there for a long moment, listening to the soft hum of the diner and the faint echo of the door that just closed behind the stranger. The envelope sits on the counter like a silent secret. She can still feel the weight of his presence lingering in the air, the quiet authority that made her feel small and unsteady. Her fingers brush against the paper again, almost afraid to touch it. $5,000. The money feels wrong in her hands, even though she has done nothing to deserve it or to refuse it. Her mind spins with questions she cannot answer. Who is Aoi Mido? Why would someone like him test a waitress? She looks at the note one more time. The handwriting is sharp and deliberate, like the man's voice on the phone. Each word feels chosen, each line measured. You have passed the preliminary vetting. The phrase unsettles her. Vetting for what? She glances at the clock again. It is just past midnight. The diner is empty except for her, the hum of the refrigerator, and the ticking of the clock on the far wall. The sound suddenly feels too loud. She folds the note and slides it back into the envelope. She cannot bring herself to count the money again. The envelope disappears into her bag, as if hiding it will make it less real. Cecilia finishes wiping down the counter, though it is already spotless. She locks the front door, turns off the lights, and steps out into the cold night. The rain has eased into a mist that clings to her hair and clothes. Streetlights flicker across the wet pavement, painting everything in muted gold. She walks quickly to the bus stop, clutching her bag close. Every passing car makes her tense. She keeps seeing the tall man in her mind, the way he had looked at her, silent and unreadable. It felt like he was measuring something about her, not just collecting a wallet. The bus arrives with a hiss of brakes. She climbs aboard, drops her fare, and slides into a seat near the back. Her reflection stares back at her from the dark window. She looks the same, tired, ordinary, but she does not feel the same. The city rolls past in a blur of lights. She tries to focus on anything else, the quiz she has to study for, her shift tomorrow, the bills waiting on her desk, but her mind keeps returning to that name, Aoi Mido. The way he spoke, the way his people moved, it felt organized, deliberate, controlled. She has heard enough rumors while working night shifts to know that people with power do not leave wallets by accident. When the bus reaches her stop, she steps off into the quiet street. Her small apartment building sits at the end of the block, its front light flickering weakly. She unlocks the door and climbs the stairs, the old wood creaking under her shoes. Inside, everything feels too still. The small space smells faintly of detergent and the faint sweetness of the candle she lit earlier. She hangs her coat and drops her bag on the table. The envelope is still inside. Cecilia pulls it out and places it on the table in front of her. The glow from the single lamp turns the cream paper a warm gold. For a moment she just looks at it, then she opens it again and reads the note for the third time. Do not spend the funds immediately. Do not mention this to anyone. The warning feels heavier now that she is alone. She wonders what would happen if she ignored it. What if she took the money and paid her tuition tomorrow? What if she told her best friend, Leah, about what happened? Would it matter? Something deep inside her says it would. She presses her palms against the table and closes her eyes. She tells herself she should go to the police. That would be the right thing to do. But the thought of explaining everything, the phone call, the driver, the money, feels impossible. No one would believe her, and even if they did, she has a strong feeling that people like Aoi Mido do not lose sleep over police reports. She stands and walks to the window. The rain has stopped completely now, leaving the streets wet and empty. The world outside looks calm, ordinary, untouched by whatever strange current she has stepped into. But she knows better. Her phone buzzes on the counter, startling her. She hurries to pick it up. It is a text from Leah, a simple message. You alive, girl? You were supposed to call me after your shift. Cecilia hesitates. her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She types, "Just tired, long night," then deletes it. She tries again. "Found something weird at work. I'll tell you later." Then she deletes that too. Finally, she just writes, "Yeah, I'm fine, going to bed." She drops the phone beside her bag and exhales. The envelope stares at her from across the table. She wants to push it out of sight, but some part of her cannot look away. Her grandmother's voice echoes again in her memory, calm and steady. "Do what is right, even when no one is watching." She laughs softly under her breath. If her grandmother could see this, she would probably make her march straight to the police station, money or not. But her grandmother is gone, and the decision is hers alone. Cecilia turns off the light and sits on the edge of her bed. The apartment is quiet except for the faint hum of traffic outside. She can still see the glow of the envelope on the table. Sleep comes slowly. When it finally does, it is restless. She dreams of rain and headlights cutting through the dark. A voice calls her name from somewhere distant, calm but commanding. She turns to see a man standing in the shadows, holding the same wallet she found, his eyes sharp and steady. When she wakes, her heart is racing. Morning light spills weakly through the curtains. She sits up, trying to shake the dream from her head. For a few moments, she thinks about pretending it never happened. She could take the envelope, tuck it somewhere safe, and go on with her life. But as she walks into the kitchen and pours herself a cup of coffee, she knows it will not be that simple. The note did not feel like a gift. It felt like a promise, or maybe a warning. At the diner that afternoon, things almost feel normal again. The smell of coffee, the hiss of the grill, the chatter of regular customers, all of it pulls her back into routine. But the normal rhythm feels fragile now, like something that could break if she thinks too hard about it. Every time the bell over the door rings, her heart jumps. She expects to see another tall man in a black coat, another silent messenger. But the customers are all familiar faces. A group of mechanics on their lunch break, an elderly couple who split a sandwich every Thursday, a tired mother with 2 restless kids. Cecilia forces herself to focus on work. She smiles, takes orders, and refills coffee cups. But her mind keeps drifting back to the envelope hidden deep in her bag, locked in the diner's small storage room. She wonders what it means to be vetted. She wonders if Aoi Mido even remembers her name, or if she is just one in a long line of tests. As she clears a table near the window, a black car pulls up outside. It is sleek, expensive, and utterly out of place in this part of town. Her heart stumbles. The driver does not get out. The tinted window rolls down just enough for her to see a gloved hand place a small envelope on the ledge outside the door. By the time she steps out to look, the car is gone. The envelope is plain, sealed neatly, her name written in precise handwriting across the front. Cecilia Jackson. Her stomach tightens. She looks around the street, but there is no one there. The rain has started again, light and steady. She slips the envelope into her apron pocket and returns to the counter. Her hands tremble as she opens it. Inside is a single card. It carries only one line of text. Opportunity comes once. No signature. No number. She folds the card slowly and looks out the window again. The car is gone. The street is empty. The world feels quiet. Too quiet. Cecilia closes the envelope and tucks it deep into her apron. Her pulse is steady now, almost calm. Something tells her this is not an end. It is a beginning. The rain falls again before dawn. It starts as a whisper on the diner's windows and grows until it drowns the quiet hum of the empty street. Cecilia stands by the counter, staring at the card in her hand. The words are simple, yet they feel heavy, deliberate. Opportunity comes once. She reads it again, tracing the letters with her thumb, as though a hidden meaning might appear if she looks long enough. The black car that left it behind is gone, but its memory lingers like a shadow in her thoughts. She slips the card into her apron pocket and locks the front door. The shift is over, but her mind refuses to settle. Her bus arrives in 10 minutes, and she walks toward the stop with her umbrella barely holding against the wind. Every sound feels sharper, every passing car a little too slow. When she reaches the stop, she glances around, half expecting the same black car to appear again. But the street remains quiet. Only the rain keeps her company. Back in her apartment, the silence is almost unbearable. The envelope from last night still sits on the table where she left it, untouched since she came home. She drops her keys beside it, stares for a few seconds, and finally sits down. She pulls the envelope open again, slides the money out, and counts the bills slowly. $5,000. It feels unreal. She thinks of her rent, her tuition, her grandmother's voice. The money could solve so many problems, but the note still echoes in her mind. Do not spend the funds immediately. Cecilia presses her palms to her face and breathes deeply. She knows she should forget this. Throw away the note, hide the card, and move on with her life. But she cannot. The way Aoi spoke still haunts her. Calm, assured, commanding. The kind of man who does not waste words. The kind who expects obedience. She opens her laptop, types his name into the search bar, and waits. Nothing useful comes up. No photos, no public records, no interviews. The name might as well belong to a ghost. She scrolls further, then closes the screen with a quiet sigh. Whoever Aoimido is, he exists outside the world she knows. The next few days pass in uneasy rhythm. She goes to class, works her shifts, studies late into the night, but her focus slips constantly. Every time the diner's bell rings, her heart lifts and falls. Every time her phone buzzes, she expects it to be another message, but nothing comes. By Friday evening, she starts to think maybe it's over. Maybe the card meant nothing, just another test of patience. She almost convinces herself that she has been overthinking everything. Until the call comes. It happens at the end of her shift. She is cleaning the counter, just like the night she found the wallet. The phone rings. It is the same number she called before. Her stomach tightens. She answers quietly. Joanna's Diner. This is Cecilia. A pause. Then the same voice she heard days ago. Smooth, calm, unmistakable. Miss Jackson? She straightens instinctively. Mr. Mido. You received my message, he says. It is not a question. Yes. Good. I trust you followed my instructions. Yes, sir. I haven't spent the money. Excellent. There is a pause. Then you are ready for the next step. Her grip tightens on the phone. The next step? You have demonstrated honesty, he says. Now I require discretion. Tomorrow at 9 in the morning, you will visit an address I will send to your phone. Bring no one. Speak of this to no one. Do you understand? Cecilia hesitates. What is this about? Understanding is earned, not given, he replies. You will come. That will be enough. The line clicks off. She lowers the phone slowly, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. For a long moment, she does not move. Then her phone vibrates. A text appears. An address. No name, no instruction, just the location and time. Sleep barely comes that night. Her thoughts chase themselves in circles. Every rational part of her mind tells her not to go, but curiosity digs deeper than fear. She tells herself she just wants to know what he wants, to end whatever strange game this is. But deep down, She knows it is something more. Morning arrives cold and gray. The city looks washed out by last night's rain. She dresses simply, jeans and a sweater, something neutral. She leaves the envelope behind, though the absence of its weight in her bag feels strange. The bus ride to the address takes almost an hour. The neighborhood is quiet, lined with trimmed hedges and houses that all look too expensive to be real. She walks the last few blocks until she finds the building. It is a small art gallery, modern and minimal, its windows tinted just enough to hide what is inside. A single light glows by the door. She checks the address again. This is the place. She steps inside. The smell of paint and polished wood fills the air. Soft music plays somewhere in the background. The space is empty except for a man standing near the back, dressed in black, his posture still and formal. He turns when he hears her. "Miss Jackson," he says with a faint smile, "Mr. Middow is expecting you." Cecilia swallows. "He's here?" The man nods and gestures toward a narrow hallway. "This way." Her footsteps echo softly against the floor as she follows. At the end of the hall, a door stands slightly open. The man holds it for her. "Go in." She hesitates but steps through. The room beyond is nothing like she expected. It is small, lined with bookshelves and dimly lit by a single lamp. Aoi Middow stands near the window, his back turned to her. He wears a tailored black suit, his posture calm, precise. When he turns, his gaze locks on her instantly. The photo on the ID did not do him justice. His presence fills the room effortlessly. "Miss Jackson," he says, "you came." "Yes." Her voice comes out softer than she intends. "You asked me to." "I did." He studies her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Most would not have. "I wanted to understand," she says quietly. "Good," he replies. "Understanding begins with action." He gestures to the chair across from his desk. "Sit." She obeys, though every part of her feels tense. The silence stretches between them until he finally speaks again. "You returned something that did not belong to you," he says. "That alone told me what I needed to know. Integrity is rare." Cecilia watches him carefully. "And the money?" "A test," he says simply. "Everything since that night has been a test. The wallet, the call, the reward, the silence. I needed to know what kind of person you are." Her chest tightens. "Why me?" "You were observed," he answers. "You were chosen for a reason." The words sink in slowly. "Observed? You mean you were watching me?" He nods once. "My people were. You passed what most would fail. You returned what could have been taken. That speaks of character." She looks down, her hands trembling slightly. "And what if I hadn't? Then you would not be sitting here." The matter-of-fact way he says it sends a chill through her. He leans back slightly. "You wonder what I want from you. For now, I only need to know one thing. Can you follow instructions without question?" Cecilia hesitates. "That depends on what they are." Aoi almost smiles. "An honest answer. You may find that honesty is both your strength and your risk." He reaches into a drawer and slides a small black card across the desk toward her. It bears only a number and a single symbol she does not recognize. "Call this number when you are ready to accept an offer, not before." "What kind of offer?" "One that may change your life." Her pulse quickens, but she does not reach for the card. "And if I refuse?" "Then you walk away," he says. "And you will never hear from me again." The silence returns. The air feels heavy with things unsaid. Finally, Cecilia takes the card, slipping it into her pocket. "I don't understand any of this," she says softly. "You will," Aoi replies. "In time." He turns his gaze back to the window. "For now, leave the money where it is. Spend none of it. It belongs to the test, not to you." Cecilia stands slowly. "I think I should go." He nods once, still looking out the window. "You already know the way." She steps out of the room, her heart pounding, her mind spinning. The man in black waits at the end of the hall and leads her back toward the front door. When she steps outside, the morning air feels sharp and clean. She stops for a moment on the sidewalk, trying to catch her breath. The world looks the same, but she knows it isn't. Cecilia walks for several blocks before realizing she is still holding her breath. The world outside the gallery feels louder, sharper, more alive. She tries to replay every word Aoi said, searching for meaning in his calm voice. A test, a choice, an offer that could change her life. None of it feels real. She half expects to wake up back at the diner, wiping down counters and wondering if she only dreamed the whole thing. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. For a second, she thinks it is him again, but it is only a message from her roommate asking if she wants takeout. Cecilia ignores it and keeps walking. The number on the black card feels like it is burning through her pocket, demanding attention. By the time she reaches the bus stop, the morning has turned bright and clear. She sits on the bench, watching traffic drift past, and takes out the card. No name, no logo, just a number, and that strange symbol, smooth and silver like it was etched into the surface. She traces it with her thumb, wondering what it means. She thinks of all the things she could do with that money. She could pay off her grandmother's bills, move out of the tiny apartment, finish school without worrying about next semester's tuition. The possibilities glow like a promise, and yet they all come with the same question: at what cost? When she gets home, she leaves the card on the table beside the envelope. They look almost like they belong together, two pieces of the same puzzle. The city hums softly outside her window, cars and voices blending into a steady rhythm. She makes coffee but barely tastes it. She spends the rest of the day restless. Every sound pulls her attention. Every shadow makes her turn. By evening, she can no longer sit still. She pulls out her laptop again and types Aoi's name one more time, but this time she tries different spellings, variations, even foreign alphabets. Nothing. Whoever he is, he exists only in whispers. The next morning, she goes to work as usual. The diner smells of coffee and syrup, and the chatter of customers fills the air. It should feel normal, but nothing does. She keeps glancing at the door, half expecting to see the man in the suit walk in again. When her shift ends, she steps outside and finds an envelope wedged beneath the strap of her bag. Her chest tightens. It is the same type as before, the same careful fold sealed without a mark. She looks around. No one is watching her. She opens it. Inside is a single sheet of paper. The next test begins when you choose it to. Below that, the same strange symbol appears again. No signature, no instruction, just those words. She crumples the note slightly, holding it in her palm as if it might dissolve if she lets go. She cannot tell if this is a warning or an invitation. The week that follows is slow, heavy, uncertain. Each night she sits by the window, staring at the card on the table, wondering what Aoi wants from her. She dreams of his voice sometimes, low and certain, saying things she cannot fully remember when she wakes. On the fourth night, she decides she cannot live like this. She takes the card in her hand, turns off the light, and sits in the dark. The phone feels heavy in her other hand. She dials the number. It rings once, twice, then silence. For a long moment, she thinks no one will answer. Then a woman's voice, calm and measured, fills the line. "You are calling for Mr. Mido." "Yes," Cecilia says quietly. "Please hold." A brief pause, then his voice, smooth and unhurried, the same as before. "You decided sooner than expected." "I need answers," she says. "You need purpose," he replies. "Answers will follow." Her throat feels dry. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to deliver something," he says. "Nothing more, nothing less." "What kind of delivery?" "You will receive instructions shortly. Be ready within the hour." The line ends. Cecilia stares at her phone, uncertain if she should feel afraid or relieved. Then a message arrives with another address. No explanation, just a location across town. She puts on her jacket, grabs her bag, and heads out before she can change her mind. The address leads her to a quiet street lined with office buildings that look half abandoned. The sun has just begun to set, and the air carries a faint chill. A single black car waits by the curb. As she approaches, the window rolls down. It is the same man from the gallery, the one who had led her to Aoi's office. "Miss Jackson," he says, "get in." She hesitates but opens the door. The leather seat feels cold against her palms. The man hands her a small, sealed package. It is wrapped in plain brown paper, no markings, no weight to suggest what is inside. "Take this to the address written on the note," he says. "Do not open it. Do not ask questions. Deliver it to the person who greets you at the door." Cecilia looks down at the package, then back at him. "What is this?" He gives her a faint, polite smile. "A continuation of your test." She bites her lip, then nods. "Fine, I'll do it." He starts the car and pulls away, driving her through the narrow streets until they stop outside a tall glass building downtown. He doesn't get out. "You know what to do." She steps out, clutching the package. The building's lobby is bright and quiet, its marble floors reflecting the overhead lights. A receptionist looks up as she enters. "Delivery?" Cecilia nods and hands over the parcel. The woman takes it with a brief smile and places it behind the desk. "That's it?" Cecilia asks. "That's it," the woman says. Cecilia turns to leave, but the receptionist calls after her. "Wait, there's something for you." She hands Cecilia a small white envelope. Inside is a single note. "You followed instructions. That is enough for now. No signature, no mark, just the message." Cecilia steps outside again, her pulse still racing. The black car is gone. The street feels too quiet. She walks to the corner, then stops beneath a streetlight. She looks at the note again and realizes her hands are trembling. It starts to rain, light at first, then harder. She lets it soak her as she walks toward the bus stop. For the first time, she feels the full weight of what she has stepped into. This isn't a simple act of kindness anymore. It isn't about a lost wallet or a stranger's gratitude. It's something deeper, something that watches her choices and shapes them. When she gets home, she finds another envelope waiting on her door. Her heart jumps. She opens it carefully. Inside is a single word: good. No other message follows. She sits on her couch, staring at the wall. The clock ticks softly in the background. The city hums outside, but it feels distant, unreal. She realizes she has crossed a line she can't return from. She doesn't know where it leads or who Aoi truly is, but she knows this is only the beginning. She picks up the black card again and studies the strange symbol under the lamp. It seems to shimmer faintly, almost alive. She whispers to herself, as though saying it aloud might make it clearer. "What are you testing me for?" The room offers no answer. Outside, the rain slows to a drizzle. Somewhere far away, a car passes, and its sound fades into the night. Cecilia sits alone, caught between fear and fascination, aware that someone, somewhere, is still watching. And though she tells herself she wants nothing more to do with Aoi Mido, she knows she will answer when he calls again. Excellent. I'll blend both emotional and moral tension so the chapter feels balanced. The weight of her decision and the growing subtle pull between Cecilia and Aoi. 3 months pass before Cecilia hears from Aoi again. The silence is both relief and punishment. The memory of that last night still lingers like a bruise that never fades. She has returned to her studies, returned to the diner, returned to her quiet life. But nothing feels the same. Every ringing phone, every car that slows outside the diner, makes her pulse quicken. The envelope with the single word, "good," remains tucked away in the back of her drawer. She tells herself she should throw it out, but something stops her every time. Sometimes, when the world feels too small, she takes it out just to look at it, as if it holds the explanation she still craves. She does well in school. Her professors notice her growing focus. Her grades climb. Yet at night, she dreams of glass walls, quiet voices, and Aoi's calm, unreadable eyes. It is a Thursday afternoon when the world shifts again. She finishes a double shift at the diner and walks home through the fading light. Her shoes scrape against the cracked pavement, and her bag feels heavy on her shoulder. The air smells faintly of rain, though the sky is clear. When she reaches her apartment, the door is already unlocked. Her breath catches. She pauses, gripping the handle, then slowly pushes it open. Inside, everything looks normal. The lights are dim, her textbook stacked on the table, her cup still where she left it. But on the counter sits a white envelope, no mark, no name, just like before. Her hands tremble as she opens it. A single card slips out. Dinner, 8 p.m., the pavilion. No signature, no further instruction. But she knows exactly who sent it. She stares at the words for a long time, then looks at the clock. It's nearly 7. She doesn't remember deciding to go, but an hour later, she stands outside the pavilion, an elegant restaurant overlooking the city. The building glows softly in the night, its glass walls reflecting the skyline. The doorman opens the door without a word, and she steps inside. The air is warm, filled with low music and the soft murmur of expensive conversation. Every detail feels deliberate, from the polished marble floors to the perfectly folded napkins. She feels small in her simple dress, aware of how out of place she is. A waiter approaches and leads her to a secluded booth near the back. Aoi is already there. He looks the same as before, calm, composed, wearing a dark suit that fits as if tailored by silence itself. His eyes meet hers as she approaches. "Miss Jackson," he says softly, "you came." "I thought it was better than ignoring you," she replies, sliding into the seat across from him. His lips curve slightly, practical as always. The waiter pours water and leaves them alone. For a few moments, neither of them speaks. Aoi studies her the way one studies a painting, patient and precise. Cecilia forces herself to meet his gaze. "You look well," he says finally. "I've been trying to stay out of trouble." "That is commendable," he says, "though trouble tends to find those who interest it." She folds her hands in her lap. "Why am I here?" He leans back slightly, the faintest trace of amusement in his voice. "You are here because I owe you a choice." "A choice," she repeats. "Like the tests?" "No," he says. "Like an agreement." She hesitates, her pulse quickening. "What kind of agreement?" He takes a small envelope from his jacket and slides it across the table. Your tuition, your housing, any remaining debts, all cleared. In return, you work for me. The words land heavily between them. Cecilia blinks. Work for you? Doing what? I am not a man who leaves debts unresolved. Aoi says calmly. You demonstrated integrity when few would have. I need someone with that quality in my circle, someone whose loyalty is not bought but earned. She looks at the envelope but doesn't touch it. What kind of work? He studies her. Medical work, consultation. On occasion, assistance with private matters that require discretion. You will not be asked to do anything illegal, but you will keep what you see to yourself. Her stomach tightens. And if I say no, then you walk away, he says. No harm, no pursuit, but the door will not open again. Silence stretches between them. The soft sound of piano drifts through the restaurant. Cecilia glances around. Everyone else seems absorbed in their own conversations, oblivious to the quiet tension at her table. She looks back at him. Why me? He smiles faintly. Because you returned what others would have taken. Because you followed instructions without question. Because you did not run when you should have. You passed a test most people fail. She exhales slowly. And if I take this deal, what does it make me? It makes you someone who chooses her future instead of waiting for it, he says. For a long time, neither speaks. The waiter returns briefly to pour wine, but neither touches it. Cecilia finally opens the envelope. Inside is a single check with her name written in elegant script, the amount enough to cover more than she could ever need. Beneath it is another card with an address. What's this? She asks. Your new residence, should you accept, Aoi replies. Close to your university, quiet, secure. She stares at the paper, her heart racing. Every part of her wants to ask more questions about what kind of man he truly is, what world she is being drawn into. But something in his steady gaze tells her the answers will come only if she steps forward. Can I think about it? She asks. You may, he says, but not for long. She nods slowly. How long? Until tomorrow night, he says simply. After that, the offer expires. He finishes his drink and stands. She rises too. Thank you for dinner, she says quietly. He inclines his head. Thank you for coming. Then he walks away, leaving her standing in the golden light of the restaurant. Cecilia stays for a while, staring at the untouched wine, the check, the card. She feels both heavier and lighter at once. This is what she wanted. A chance to escape the endless grind, to finally breathe, but it feels like stepping off a cliff. When she finally leaves, the city air feels cold against her skin. She walks home without remembering the route. Inside her apartment, she places the check on the table beside her old textbooks. The paper looks out of place, too clean, too sharp against the clutter. She sits down and buries her face in her hands. The question circles her mind like a shadow. What are you doing, Cecilia? She thinks of her grandmother's voice again, the one that told her to sleep soundly on her own dime. But that voice feels far away now, softened by exhaustion and the weight of dreams deferred too long. She picks up the check and turns it over. On the back, in the same fine handwriting, is a single line. A deal is only as binding as the trust between us. Her fingers tighten around it. The night outside deepens, and the city lights blink like watchful eyes. She knows she will not sleep tonight. Cecilia does not recognize the woman staring back at her in the mirror. The reflection shows the same face, the same tired eyes, but there is something new in the way she stands. She has changed in quiet, invisible ways. Months have passed since she agreed to Aoi's deal. and each day has pulled her deeper into his world. The rules are different here. Lives hang by threads, and trust is a fragile currency. The first time she enters one of Ioi's private facilities, she realizes that medicine looks different when it is practiced in shadows. It is not about paperwork or polished clinics. It is about precision, silence, and secrecy. The rooms are dimly lit, filled with metallic tables and shelves stacked with medical supplies. Every tool gleams like it has been touched by danger. Aoi does not say much at first. He watches her from the corner of the room as his men explain the basics of their emergency operations. They show her where to find the kits, how to sterilize instruments, and how to patch up bullet wounds without leaving a trace. The knowledge feels heavy in her mind, heavier than anything she learned in class. She listens, nods, and practices on synthetic flesh until her hands stop shaking. Each night she returns home exhausted, her mind spinning with images she cannot share. Her textbooks sit untouched on the small wooden desk by her window. The notes she once used to study now seem distant, like they belong to another life. The quiet rhythm of the diner, the warmth of familiar routines, all of it feels like a dream she has left behind. Aoi keeps his distance during those first weeks. He sends messages through others, brief instructions delivered with precision. Yet even from afar she feels his presence. He is the type of man who fills a room without entering it. When he finally appears again, it is during a night when the air smells of rain and the city is painted with silver light. She is in the middle of organizing supplies when he walks in. The door opens without a sound, and the world seems to pause. His gaze meets hers, calm and unyielding. "You are adapting well," he says in a low voice, his tone even but laced with quiet approval. Cecilia nods, unsure how to respond. His eyes hold hers for a moment longer, as if weighing something unseen before he steps closer. He moves with a kind of grace that demands silence from the world around him. "There is another assignment tonight," he says, "a situation that requires discretion. I want you there." Her pulse quickens. She wants to ask why her, but something in his expression tells her not to. She simply gathers her tools, follows his lead, and steps into the waiting car outside. The drive takes them through narrow streets where street lights flicker against puddles and the hum of the engine fills the silence between them. She sits beside him, her hands folded tightly in her lap, aware of every breath she takes. Aoi's gaze remains fixed on the road ahead. When they arrive, the building looks abandoned from the outside. Inside, it smells faintly of dust and antiseptic. Men stand guard in the corners, their faces unreadable. On a table near the center of the room lies a man clutching his side, blood seeping through his shirt. Cecilia's instincts take over. She forgets the fear, the questions, the strangeness of the world she has entered. All she sees is a patient in pain. She kneels beside him, speaking softly, asking for clean gauze and antiseptic. Her hands move quickly, steady despite the chaos. She cuts away the fabric, cleans the wound, and sutures it in neat, careful strokes. The man grits his teeth but says nothing. When it is done, he exhales in relief. Aoi watches from a distance, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. When she finishes, she removes her gloves and looks up. Their eyes meet again and something unspoken passes between them. Later in the car, Aoi breaks the silence. "You were calm," he says. "That is rare for someone who has never seen blood like that." "I focused," she replies softly. It is easier not to think when someone is bleeding. He studies her profile, the way the streetlights brush across her face. "You learn quickly. That is good. But understand this, Cecilia. Every life you touch here carries weight. Sometimes saving one means losing another." The words linger in her mind long after they part ways. She lies awake that night, the rain whispering against her window, replaying his voice over and over. She does not know if he is warning her or testing her again. Days blur into weeks. The work becomes more demanding, the hours longer. She treats burns, deep cuts, broken bones, each case stranger than the last. The men around her trust her now, but their eyes always carry a certain distance. She belongs, yet she does not. Aoi visits often now. Sometimes he observes in silence. Other times, he offers guidance in the same calm voice that can steady or shatter her. He never raises his tone, but his presence commands focus. She finds herself anticipating his visits, though she does not admit it to herself. One evening he arrives after everyone has left. She is finishing the inventory, her hands stained faintly with iodine. He stands by the door watching her. "You have done well," he says. "Thank you," she answers, turning slightly toward him. He steps closer, close enough that she can see the faint scar along his jaw, the tiredness behind his eyes that power cannot erase. "Do you understand what kind of world you have entered, Cecilia?" She hesitates, then nods. "I think I do." He studies her for a long moment. His gaze softens, though his tone remains controlled. You could still walk away. She knows she could. Yet when she looks at him, at the strange calm in his expression, she realizes that she will not. "I am already here," she says quietly. Aoi nods once, then stay alert. The deeper you go, the harder it is to return. He leaves her standing there, surrounded by shadows and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. The warning echoes in her chest like a heartbeat. That night, Cecilia dreams of light and darkness mixing together, impossible to separate. She wakes before dawn, the city still asleep, and wonders if this path will end with her saving lives or losing her own. The next morning begins before the sun rises. The city still sleeps beneath a layer of fog, and Cecilia moves through the quiet corridors of the facility like a ghost. She has learned to walk softly, to listen more than she speaks, to survive in a world built on secrets. The smell of antiseptic clings to her skin, and her reflection in the glass door looks sharper, older. Aoi's organization runs on silence. Every movement has purpose, every instruction weight. Cecilia learns that even in this world, trust must be earned in fragments. She never asks questions about who the patients are or what brought them here. She treats, she stabilizes, she leaves. Yet the unspoken truth always hums beneath the surface. These are not ordinary injuries. The men who come to her carry violence in their bones. One night, she is called in suddenly. The call comes from Aoi himself, his voice low and controlled. A situation has escalated. She arrives at an old warehouse near the harbor, the air thick with salt and tension. Inside, chaos waits. A man lies on the ground, breathing heavily. Blood soaking through a makeshift bandage on his shoulder. Another stands nearby, shouting orders into a phone. Cecilia does not hesitate. She kneels beside the man, her bag already open, her hands moving without thought. The light flickers overhead, casting long shadows on the walls. She feels Aoi's presence before she sees him. He steps from the darkness, calm as always, though his shirt sleeve is streaked with blood. She looks up at him, startled. "You are hurt." "It is nothing," he replies. "Focus on him first." She does as he says, cutting away the soaked bandage, cleaning the wound, stitching it closed with steady hands. The air feels electric, heavy with unspoken danger. When she finishes, she glances at Aoi again. The blood on his sleeve darkens with every second. "Show me," she says quietly. He studies her for a moment, then unbuttons his cuff and rolls up the fabric. A shallow cut runs along his forearm, not life-threatening but deep enough to need care. She takes his arm gently, cleaning it with practiced care. He watches her work, saying nothing, though she can feel his gaze like a physical touch. "You should let it heal properly," she murmurs. He smiles faintly, the expression small and fleeting. "You give orders now." "Only when someone forgets to care for themselves," she answers before she can stop herself. For a moment, silence stretches between them. The air feels warmer, the space smaller. Then he steps back, his composure settling over him again like armor. "Good work tonight," he says. She nods, unsure why her heart is beating faster than it should. The weeks that follow are an unbroken rhythm of tension and exhaustion. Cecilia grows sharper, her movements more confident. The men she works with begin to respect her quietly. They no longer look at her as an outsider, but as someone who belongs. Yet belonging here means something different. It means understanding that safety is an illusion. Aoi watches her progress with quiet intensity. He appears without warning, checking on her, observing how she handles pressure. Sometimes he offers advice, other times he simply stands in silence. His presence a reminder that she is never truly unseen. Late one night, he calls her to his office. The room is minimalist, clean and dimly lit. Papers are arranged neatly on the desk, and a faint scent of smoke lingers in the air. He gestures for her to sit. "You have done well," he begins. "Your results are precise and your loyalty has been proven." She nods, unsure what to say. "Thank you." He studies her carefully. "Do you regret your decision?" She hesitates. "Sometimes," she admits, "but only when I remember the person I used to be. And now? Now I do not know who that person was." Aoi leans back slightly, eyes fixed on her. "That is how this world changes people. It does not ask permission." The words should frighten her, yet they do not. Instead, she feels an odd calm, as if she has already accepted the truth. "You are not afraid," he says quietly. "Maybe I am just too tired to be afraid." His lips curve in a small smile that never quite reaches his eyes. Fatigue is honesty. It strips away fear. For a moment, neither speaks. The silence between them hums with something unspoken, something that neither dares to name. When he finally stands, the light catches the faint scar along his jaw again. "Rest," he says. "Tomorrow will test you further." She nods and leaves the room, her pulse echoing in her ears. The next test arrives sooner than she expects. A convoy ambushed outside the city. 3 wounded, 1 critical. Cecilia rides with Aoi to the scene, the hum of the car blending with the pounding of her heart. The city lights fade as they reach the outskirts, where the road turns to dirt, and the night feels heavier. The injured men lie on the ground, surrounded by broken glass and the smell of gasoline. Cecilia works quickly, directing the others with quiet authority. Aoi stays near her, his expression unreadable. The scene is chaotic, but her focus never falters. When it is over, 2 lives are saved. The 3rd does not make it. She sits back, her hands trembling slightly. The weight of failure presses against her chest. Aoi kneels beside her, his voice low. "You did what you could. Sometimes that must be enough." She nods, but the words barely reach her. The sound of sirens in the distance reminds them that time is short. They leave before dawn, the world behind them swallowed by fog. In the car, silence stretches between them again. Then Aoi speaks softly. "You handled yourself with discipline. Many would have broken under that pressure. I wanted to save them all," she says. He turns to her, his eyes softer than she has ever seen them. That desire is what makes you dangerous, Cecilia. The world does not reward those who care too much. She looks out the window, the city lights beginning to reappear. Maybe caring is the only thing that still feels real. Aoi does not reply, but she can feel his gaze linger. Days later, she finds herself in the training room again, reviewing procedures with new recruits. She corrects their mistakes, her tone calm but firm. She no longer feels like a student. She feels like someone who has learned how to survive in a place that should have swallowed her whole. When Aoi walks in, the men immediately straighten. He nods for them to leave, his attention fixed on her. "You have adapted faster than anyone I have seen," he says. She looks at him, unsure if it is praise or a warning. "I only do what is necessary." "And yet you do more," he replies. "You make people believe they can be saved. For a heartbeat, the room feels too small, the silence too intimate." She does not look away, neither does he. He steps closer, close enough that she can feel the quiet steadiness of his presence. "You should rest," he says again, his voice softer this time. "I will," she answers, though both know it is a lie. He turns to leave, but before he reaches the door, he pauses. "You have changed, Cecilia. Do not forget why you began." When he is gone, she stands there for a long time, surrounded by the echo of his words. Outside, the night spreads across the city like ink. She looks down at her hands, the faint marks of her work etched into her skin. Cecilia Jackson, the girl who once waited tables and studied by candlelight, now lives in the shadows of a world that has no mercy. She is stronger now, but strength here is a kind of isolation. Still, as she closes her eyes, she cannot shake the image of Aoi watching her through the dim light. His voice calm, his presence constant. Something is changing between them, something fragile and inevitable. She knows the risks, she knows the danger. But when she dreams, it is his face she sees, his voice she hears, saying the same words over and over. Stay alert. The deeper you go, the harder it is to return. And in her heart, she already knows she has gone too far to ever turn back. The days blur together, measured not by sunrise or sunset, but by the quiet rhythm of Aoi's world. Cecilia stops keeping track of time. The outside world feels distant, like a memory that fades more each day. She wakes to silence, works in shadows, and ends every night with thoughts that refuse to rest. Aoi trusts her now. She can feel it in the way he speaks to her, in the rare softness that slips through his voice when they are alone. He no longer observes from a distance. He asks her opinion, listens, even shares glimpses of himself that no one else seems to know. Yet the closer she gets, the heavier the silence becomes. She learns that silence here is not just an act, it is survival. She cannot speak of the things she sees or the names she hears. Every secret feels like a weight pressed against her chest. There are moments when she wants to scream, to run, to breathe air that is not owned by someone else. But when she sees Aoi's face, calm and composed, the thought fades. He calls her to his office more often now. Sometimes it is to discuss logistics or medical procedures. Other times it is for no reason she can name. Tonight is one of those nights. The clock on the wall shows midnight. The air feels still, the kind of stillness that holds meaning. Oi sits at his desk, the glow from a single lamp casting sharp shadows across the room. His jacket hangs on the chair behind him, and the top button of his shirt is undone. He looks less like the untouchable figure she first met and more like a man carrying too much weight. "Sit," he says quietly. Cecilia obeys. Her heart beats faster than it should, but she hides it behind the calm expression she has learned to wear. You have been here for several months now, Aoi says. You have seen things most people are not meant to see, and yet you remain. She folds her hands on her lap. I made a choice. He looks at her, the faintest trace of something unreadable in his eyes. Do you understand the price of that choice? Cecilia hesitates. I think I do. No, he says softly. You do not. He stands and walks toward the window. The rain outside blurs the lights of the city, turning everything into streaks of gold and gray. When he speaks again, his voice is quieter. Silence protects us, but it also isolates us. The more secrets you hold, the fewer people you can trust. I have no one to tell, she says, meaning it. That is the first sign, he replies, turning to face her again. You start believing that loneliness is safety. The words land heavier than she expects. She watches him, wondering if he is talking about her or himself. When Aoi returns to his desk, he reaches for a small file and places it before her. Inside are photographs and medical reports. One of his men, badly injured during a negotiation that went wrong. Cecilia studies the papers, her mind already shifting into clinical focus. He will need surgery, she says. He cannot go to a hospital, Aoi answers. You will perform it here. Her breath catches. I am not qualified for that. You are the only one I trust, Aoi says simply. The words strike her harder than they should. Trust. It sounds like a gift and a curse all at once. She nods because she knows refusal is not an option. The surgery takes place that night, in the underground medical room she has come to know too well. The air smells of metal and tension. Her hands move with precision, her mind steady. Aoi stays nearby, silent, his eyes never leaving her. When it is over and the patient stabilizes, Cecilia steps back, sweat clinging to her skin. She feels drained but alive. Aoi approaches, his expression unreadable. You did well, he says. Her voice is quiet. I was afraid I would fail. You did not, he answers. Fear keeps your hands steady. Their eyes meet, and for a moment the world narrows to that small space between them. She feels the pull again, the quiet current that has grown stronger with each passing day. He breaks the gaze first, turning away before it becomes something neither of them can control. Later, when she returns to her quarters, she cannot sleep. The silence that once comforted her now feels like a cage. She sits by the window, watching the city below. The streets look peaceful, unaware of the world she now lives in. She thinks about Aoi's words. Silence protects us. Silence isolates us. He is right. The more she learns, the less she can share. Even her thoughts feel dangerous now. Days later, a small shift changes everything. Aoi begins speaking to her about his past. Not much, just fragments. He tells her about the first time he realized power was both a weapon and a burden, how control became his only form of peace. His voice never rises, but beneath the calm, she hears something raw. She listens, not as his subordinate, but as someone who understands. Their conversations stretch late into the night, the air thick with words that mean more than they say. She learns that Aoi is a man built on restraint. Every gesture, every glance is deliberate. And yet with her, there are moments when that restraint falters. One evening, after another long night of treating an injured associate, Cecilia finds herself alone in the corridor outside Aoi's office. The door is slightly open, the light inside dim. She hesitates before stepping in. He is standing by the window again, his posture tense, his shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. The city lights paint him in gold and shadow. You should rest, she says softly. He turns, a faint smile on his lips. So should you. They stand there in silence for a moment, neither moving. Then he gestures toward the chair across from his desk. "Sit, Cecilia." She obeys. He pours 2 glasses of water, handing her one. The gesture feels strangely intimate. "Tell me," he says, "do you ever miss your old life?" She takes a sip, thinking. "I miss the simplicity of it. Not the struggle, but the idea that things could be normal. Normal is an illusion," he says. "Even before this, the world you lived in was built on invisible chains. Now you just see them clearly." "Maybe," she murmurs, "but sometimes I wish I did not." He looks at her, and for a heartbeat, she thinks she sees regret in his eyes. "You remind me of who I used to be," he says quietly. She feels the weight of those words. There is something fragile beneath them, something she is afraid to touch. When she stands to leave, he reaches out, not to stop her, but to rest a hand lightly on her arm. The touch is brief, careful, but it sends a quiet tremor through her. "Be careful," he says. "Not everyone values loyalty the way I do." She nods, her voice barely audible. "I will." That night, her dreams are filled with his voice and the echo of his touch. The next morning feels heavy. The air in the compound carries a quiet tension, the kind that settles in before something changes. Cecilia moves through the halls, her mind still echoing with fragments of Iowe's words from the night before. "You remind me of who I used to be." She cannot decide if that is a comfort or a warning. The men greet her with polite nods, but avoid meeting her eyes. They respect her now, though she senses it is not affection but fear that holds their silence. In this place, loyalty has layers. Trust is never simple. Awai does not appear until evening. When he does, his calmness feels different, controlled but distant. Cecilia senses something is wrong before he even speaks. An internal betrayal, one of his men leaking information to an outside rival. Aoi's voice remains even as he explains, but the edges are sharp. The man has been caught, and justice will be carried out quietly, without delay. Cecilia's stomach twists. She knows what that means. She tries not to think about it, but the image stays in her mind long after Aoi leaves the room. That night, she hears the echo of footsteps in the hall, the low murmur of voices, and then silence. Complete silence. She closes her eyes, pressing her palms against her ears, but it does not help. The next morning, Aoi calls for her. His tone is calm, as if nothing happened. She finds him in his office again, the same chair, the same expression, only his eyes are different. Colder, more distant than she has ever seen. "You seem troubled," he says. She hesitates. "Should I not be?" Aoi studies her for a long time. "You knew what this world was when you agreed to stay." "I knew the risk," she replies, her voice low. "I did not know it would change me." He leans back, watching her. "It changes everyone. The question is whether you can live with who you become." His words linger in the air, heavy and uncomfortably true. Later that day, Cecilia finds herself in the medical room again. The man she operated on weeks ago is recovering well. She focuses on the small things, checking vitals, changing dressings, keeping her hands busy so her thoughts do not stray. But even the steady rhythm of work cannot quiet the unease building inside her. When Aoi appears at the door, she feels it before she sees him. His presence always changes the air somehow. "You have not eaten," he says. "I am fine." "You said that yesterday," he answers. "Come with me." He leads her to a small dining space she has never been in before. It is quiet and warm, nothing like the rest of the building. Simple dishes are set on the table, and for a moment the world outside does not exist. They eat in silence. The quiet between them is no longer awkward. It feels like its own kind of understanding. When she finishes, he speaks without looking up. "I do not expect you to approve of everything you see, but I do expect you to understand why I do what I do." Cecilia studies his face. His expression is composed, but his eyes hold something else, something unguarded. "You think I do not understand," she says, "but I do. That is what frightens me." A faint smile touches his lips. "That makes you honest." She wants to say more but stops herself. Some truths are too fragile to speak aloud. Days turn into weeks. The silence grows thicker. Cecilia starts to feel the walls closing in. Every decision she makes now ties her closer to Aui's world. Every act of loyalty is another step away from who she used to be. One night, after another emergency, she finds herself standing outside his office again. She should walk away. Instead, she knocks. "Enter," Aui says from inside. He is at his desk, papers spread before him. He looks tired, more than usual. She closes the door behind her and steps forward. "You wanted something," he asks. "I wanted to know if it ever ends." He looks up. "What?" "The silence," she says quietly. "The pretending, the feeling that everything we say is measured, that we cannot be human here." Aoi regards her for a long time. Then he stands and walks toward her, stopping just close enough that she can feel the faint warmth of his presence. "It does not end," he says. "You learn to carry it." She looks up at him, her heart beating too fast. "And you? Have you learned to carry it?" His gaze softens, and for once he does not hide behind control. "No," he says. "I have only learned to hide it better." The silence between them stretches, full of things neither dares to say. When Aoi finally speaks again, his voice is low. "You should not care about me, Cecilia. It will make everything harder." "Maybe it already has," she answers before she can stop herself. Something flickers in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. But he does not move. Instead, he turns away, breaking the moment before it becomes too real. He walks back to his desk, his tone steady again. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be difficult." She nods, her voice barely a whisper. "Good night." As she walks out, her pulse still racing, she knows she has crossed a line that cannot be undone. That night, she cannot sleep. The silence presses down harder than ever. She lies awake, thinking of Aoi's words, his voice, the distance he tries so hard to maintain. She understands now that silence is not just part of his world, it is his armor, and by stepping closer, she is learning to wear it too. The next morning, she wakes to find an envelope on her table. No name, no mark, just her initials. Inside is a note in Aoi's handwriting. "There are things I cannot change, but there are also things I cannot lose. You are one of them." Her chest tightens as she folds the paper back into the envelope. She does not know what the words mean, not fully, but she knows they will stay with her. From that moment, the silence between them changes. It is no longer a wall. It is a language only they understand. Rain falls without pause, soaking the city in silver light. Cecilia watches from the small window in her room, the sound of it steady and hypnotic. The past few weeks have been quiet, almost too quiet. Aoi has kept his distance, leaving her to her studies and medical duties. The silence should bring peace, but instead, it feels like waiting for a storm that refuses to arrive. Her phone vibrates on the table, shattering the stillness. The message is brief, only 2 words. "Come now." She knows that tone, urgency wrapped in command. Her chest tightens. She grabs her coat and medical kit and rushes through the halls, her shoes tapping against the polished floors that gleam under the dim lights. The air in the compound is different tonight, heavy and cold. When she reaches the main room, she sees them immediately. Aoi standing near the long table, his shirt streaked with crimson. A man lies on the table, motionless except for shallow breaths. His pulse flutters weakly under pale skin. Blood pools around him, dark and fresh. Cecilia's instincts take over. She pushes past the guards, pulling her gloves from her pocket. What happened? Ambush, Aoi answers, voice steady but low. He took a blade to the side, missed the artery, I think. He's losing too much blood. Cecilia opens her kit, her hands moving fast. Clear the area, she orders. The men hesitate, glancing at Aoi. He nods once, and they leave without a word. The room falls into silence except for the sound of rain outside. She lifts the soaked cloth from the wound and exhales sharply. The gash is deep, ragged at the edges. I need better light, she says. Aoi moves to the side, adjusting the lamp above them until it illuminates the table. She feels the heat of his presence beside her, his breath close but silent. He hands her gauze before she asks for it. He's done this before, she realizes. He knows the rhythm of blood and panic. Cecilia presses down to slow the bleeding. I need sutures. Aoi opens a drawer, his movements quick and precise. He hands her the needle and thread. She works without hesitation, her fingers steady even as her heart races. The wound closes slowly under her hands. Sweat drips down her temple, but she doesn't stop. Minutes blur into hours. The man's breathing stabilizes, the color returning to his face little by little. Cecilia finally exhales, the tension easing slightly from her shoulders. Aoi watches her, silent. His shirt is still stained, his sleeves rolled up. There's blood on his wrists, dried and dark. She turns to him. You should clean that, she says. He looks down at himself as if only now noticing the mess. It's not mine. Still, she says, softer now, you should. A faint smile touches his lips, tired and fleeting. You always sound like you care too much. She doesn't answer. Her hands are still trembling slightly. The adrenaline is wearing off. Aoi steps closer, picking up a cloth from the counter. He dips it in a basin of water and starts to wipe the blood from his hands, his movements slow, deliberate. Cecilia finds herself watching him. The rain outside glints against his profile, outlining the sharp lines of his face. There's something unreadable in his expression, a quiet weariness beneath the control. He finishes cleaning his hands and glances at her. You did well, he says. It's what I'm supposed to do, she replies, her voice low. That doesn't make it less remarkable. Cecilia looks away, unsure how to respond. Compliments from him always carry weight. They feel too personal, too deliberate. He steps closer again. You're shaking. I'm fine. You're not. His voice is quiet but firm. He takes her wrist gently, checking her pulse like a doctor would. His fingers are cool against her skin, his touch steady. Adrenaline crash, he murmurs. You've been running on it for too long. She tries to pull her hand back, but he doesn't let go immediately. Their eyes meet, and the air between them shifts, a silent charge neither can ignore. For a moment, neither moves. The world outside fades. The rain, the faint hum of the lights, the distant footsteps, all of it disappears. There's only the sound of their breathing. Aoi is the first to look away. He releases her wrist, the loss of contact sharper than she expects. Rest, he says softly. I'll handle the rest here. She nods and turns away, but her steps falter at the doorway. You trust me with their lives, she says, but you never trust me with the truth. Aoi's voice is calm. The truth is heavier than blood. You're not ready to carry it. Cecilia looks back at him, the faint light outlining his face. Maybe I already am. He doesn't answer. She leaves before he can stop her. Cecilia walks down the hallway, her steps slow, the echo of Aui's words following her. The truth is heavier than blood. It lingers like smoke in her mind. She should rest, but her body refuses to calm. Every time she closes her eyes, she sees the man on the table, the open wound, the steady rhythm of Aui's voice as he guided her through it. Hours later, she finds herself back in the infirmary. The patient sleeps under dim light, breathing steady now. She checks the monitors one last time before turning toward the window. The rain hasn't stopped. The city outside glows faintly, distant and blurred by water. A soft knock sounds behind her. She doesn't need to turn to know it's him. His presence fills the space before he speaks. "You should be resting," he says. "I could say the same to you." He steps closer. "I never rest when there's blood on my hands." She turns to him. His shirt is clean now, but the exhaustion is clear in his eyes. "You blame yourself," she says quietly. He studies her face. "Every man I lose is my failure." "And the ones you save? They don't erase the others." She takes a slow breath. "You can't carry everything." He gives a faint smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "And yet I do." The silence stretches between them, fragile and full of meaning. Cecilia doesn't know what compels her next words. "You're human, Aui. You bleed like they do." He looks at her, a trace of surprise in his expression. "Is that what you see when you look at me?" "I see a man who tries to pretend he doesn't feel anything." He steps closer. The distance between them narrows until she can feel the faint warmth of his breath. "And what if I told you that pretending is the only way I survive?" Her voice lowers. "Then I'd tell you that it's slowly killing you." Something shifts in his gaze. For once, the control he wears like armor falters. His hand rises slightly, as if to touch her face, but he stops halfway. The air feels charged, almost electric. She doesn't move. Her heart beats fast, steady, unstoppable. "You don't have to keep everyone away," she says softly. "Not me." Aui exhales, the sound quiet but heavy. "You don't understand the danger, Cecilia." "Maybe I do," she replies. "Maybe that's what frightens me." For a moment, neither of them speaks. The tension between them is a living thing. Then, without warning, the power flickers. The lights dim and go out. The sound of rain grows louder. Aui moves instinctively, his hand finding hers in the dark. "Stay close." The emergency lights hum faintly to life, casting the room in red. She feels his hand still holding hers, steady and warm. "It's just the generator," she says, but her voice trembles slightly. He doesn't let go. "You're shaking again." "I'm fine," she whispers. "Stop saying that." His tone isn't sharp, but filled with something else, something protective, almost desperate. When the lights return fully, their eyes meet, and for a heartbeat, everything around them disappears. Aoi's fingers tighten around hers before he finally lets go. "You shouldn't be here," he says quietly. "Where should I be then?" "Somewhere safe." She shakes her head. "There's no safe place when your world touches mine." He looks at her for a long moment, then steps back, breaking the tension. "You should sleep," he says again, though his voice has softened. "Tomorrow will bring more questions than answers." Cecilia nods. But she doesn't leave. Her feet stay rooted to the spot. The man who commands fear from everyone else looks tired now, human in a way she has never seen before. "You can't keep doing this alone," she says. Aui looks up, eyes shadowed by thought. And what would you have me do? Let someone in. The words hang between them like fragile glass. For a moment she thinks he might actually answer, but instead he simply says, "Go rest, Cecilia." She hesitates, then turns to leave. At the door, his voice stops her. "You said I pretend not to feel," he says. "You're wrong." She looks back, and their eyes meet one last time. There's no mask on his face now, no distance, just quiet honesty. "Then stop hiding it," she says. He doesn't reply, but his gaze lingers long after she's gone. Cecilia returns to her room, her pulse still unsteady. She sits on the edge of her bed, staring at her hands. The faint memory of his touch still there. The connection between them is no longer something she can deny. It hums under her skin like a secret waiting to be spoken. Outside, the rain slows. The storm finally begins to fade, but inside her, something new begins to take shape. Something just as dangerous. The night feels wrong before it even begins. Cecilia senses it the moment she steps out of her room. The air in the compound is thick, charged, as if something is about to happen. She can hear voices down the hall. Quiet, tense, clipped. Men moving fast, their footsteps heavy against the tile. Aoi's voice cuts through the noise, calm but commanding. "Seal the west gate. Nobody leaves until I say so." Cecilia quickens her pace. When she reaches the main room, she finds him surrounded by his men, the map of the city spread across the table. The red light from the monitors glows across his face, sharp and cold. "What's happening?" she asks. He looks up at her, his expression unreadable. "We have company. A rival group hit our shipment on the docks. I expected retaliation, but not this soon." "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that they might come here." The words hang in the air. The compound is supposed to be untouchable, hidden behind layers of security. For someone to find it means betrayal. Cecilia steps closer, trying to steady her voice. "Do you think it's someone from inside?" Aoi doesn't answer right away. His eyes narrow. "It doesn't matter. We deal with the threat first." He turns to his men. "Get everyone to the lower levels. Lock down the main floor." Cecilia watches him move, precise, deliberate, unshaken. Even in chaos, he is control itself. But when his gaze lands on her again, she sees something behind it. Concern, buried deep. "You stay close to me," he says quietly. "I can take care of myself." "I don't doubt that," he replies. "But tonight isn't about proving it." Before she can respond, the sound of gunfire echoes in the distance. Short bursts, then silence. Her breath catches. The men scatter into motion, their radios crackling with urgent voices. Aoi grabs her hand, pulling her toward the back hall. "We move now." They run through narrow corridors lit by flickering lights. The walls tremble with the sound of conflict outside. Cecilia's pulse pounds in her ears. She grips her medical kit tighter, focusing on Aoi's back as he leads her through the maze of hallways. When they reach the east wing, Aoi stops abruptly, holding up a hand. "Stay here," he says. "I'll clear it." Before she can protest, the sound of boots approaches from the other side of the door. The air shifts. Aoi moves instantly, grabbing her and pulling her behind a metal column. His arm wraps around her waist as he whispers, "Don't move." The door bursts open. 2 men rush in, their movements sharp and aggressive. Aoi's hand leaves her waist, his gun already drawn. 2 quiet shots. Both men fall before they can react. The noise echoes briefly, then fades. Cecilia's heart races. She has seen blood before, but never like this. So sudden, so final. Aoi checks the hallway again, then turns back to her. "Are you hurt?" She shakes her head, her breath uneven. "No, you didn't have to." Yes, I did. His tone is quiet but absolute. They move again. The lower corridors are dim and cold. The power flickers once, then steadies. Cecilia can still hear the faint sounds of conflict outside, distant but growing closer. When they reach the emergency room at the end of the hall, Aoi stops. "This is the safest place for now," he says. She looks around. Safe feels like a strange word tonight. His lips twitch faintly. "Then let's make it true." He checks the door locks, then moves to the security console on the wall. Cecilia watches him work, the glow of the monitor reflecting off his face. There's a small cut on his cheek she hadn't noticed before. She steps closer. "You're bleeding," she says. "It's nothing." "Let me see." He turns slightly, reluctant but compliant. She reaches up, wiping the blood gently with a sterile cloth. The contact is brief, but it sends a current through her. He doesn't flinch, just watches her with that same quiet intensity. "There," she says softly. "Better." His eyes linger on hers a moment too long. "You shouldn't worry about me right now." "Then who should I worry about?" A distant explosion cuts her off. The floor trembles under their feet, dust falling from the ceiling. The lights flicker again, then dim to red. Aoi grabs her arm, pulling her back from the door just as a loud crash echoes through the corridor. "They found the east entrance," he says, voice low. Her heart lurches. "What do we do?" Aoi checks his weapon, eyes sharp. "We hold until my men regroup. Stay behind me, no matter what happens." The door rattles, then silence, then footsteps, slow, deliberate. Aoi raises his gun. Cecilia stands frozen, every sense alert. The door bursts open, and 3 men rush in. Aoi fires them, swift and precise, taking 2 down immediately. The third charges forward, catching him off guard. They struggle, the sound of metal scraping concrete. Cecilia doesn't think. She grabs a heavy instrument tray and swings. The metal hits hard, the attacker collapsing. Her hands shake, her breath ragged. Aoi looks at her, eyes wide for a moment, then nods. "Good." "That was—" she starts, but he cuts her off. "You're braver than most of the men I command." Before she can answer, another explosion shakes the floor. The lights go out completely this time, plunging them into darkness. Aoi grabs her hand again, pulling her close. "We have to move," he says. "Follow my voice." They move through the dark hall, guided by faint emergency lights and the sound of each other's breathing. Cecilia stays close, her shoulder brushing his. Every sense feels heightened, every sound amplified. When they finally reach the exit to the lower tunnels, Aoi stops. "This way," he whispers, opening the reinforced door. The air inside is cooler, damp, and silent. He closes it behind them, locking the chaos out. For a moment, neither speaks. The darkness feels alive around them, pulsing with everything left unsaid. The tunnel is silent except for the faint hum of distant generators. The walls are concrete, wet with condensation. Aoi leads, flashlight in hand, the narrow beam cutting through the dark. Cecilia follows close, clutching her bag. Every drop of water that falls from the ceiling echoes like a whisper. "How far do these tunnels go?" she asks softly. "Far enough to keep us alive," he answers. She nods, though she can feel the tension radiating from him. He moves with focus, but his breathing is slightly uneven now. She glances down and sees the dark stain on his sleeve. "You're hurt," she says, quickening her pace. "It's nothing serious." "Stop pretending it's nothing." He keeps walking, but she reaches forward and grabs his arm. "Aoi, stop." He turns, the beam of light catching his face. His jaw tightens, his expression unreadable. "We don't have time for this." "Then make time," she says. "If you bleed out before we get out of here, what was the point of any of this?" For a second, he doesn't move. Then he exhales, slow and heavy, and sits on the low concrete step by the wall. She kneels beside him and carefully rolls up his sleeve. The cut is deep but clean, a sharp slice across his upper arm. "Bullet graze," she says, pulling antiseptic from her kit. "You're lucky." "I make my own luck." She gives him a look, but her hands stay steady as she cleans the wound. He doesn't flinch, though his eyes never leave her face. The light flickers across her features, calm, focused, stubbornly brave. "You shouldn't be here," he says quietly. Too late for that. He watches her tie the bandage, her fingers brushing his skin. The contact is brief, but it feels charged, almost electric. When she finishes, she sits back slightly, meeting his gaze. "You'll live." "That's good to know," he says, voice lower now. The silence stretches. The flashlight sits between them, its light soft against the concrete walls. For a moment, the chaos above feels far away. It's just them, the sound of their breathing, the faint drip of water, the closeness that neither can ignore. Cecilia looks away first. "We should keep moving." He stands, offering her his hand. She hesitates, then takes it. His grip is firm, warm despite the cold air. They walk deeper into the tunnel until it opens into a larger chamber, an old underground storage room lined with crates and steel doors. Aoi scans the corners with his light, then lowers it. "We can rest here for a while," he says. Cecilia sets her bag down and leans against the wall. Her body is tired, adrenaline fading, but her mind is still racing. "What happens after this?" she asks. Aoi looks over at her. "We rebuild. Find the leak. Fix it. And if the people who attacked don't stop? Then neither do I." His tone is steady, but there's something darker beneath it. She studies him. The quiet intensity, the control that never cracks. Yet she's seen enough tonight to know he isn't invincible. "You always talk like you don't have a choice," she says. He meets her gaze. "Some people don't. Everyone has one. Even you." He steps closer, stopping just a few inches from her. The air between them feels different now. Heavier, closer. "Do you really believe that?" he asks. "Yes." He watches her, eyes searching hers as if he's trying to find something he lost a long time ago. For a moment, his walls slip. "Then tell me what choice you think I have." "You could walk away," she says softly. "You could stop fighting long enough to see there's more to life than power or control." His expression hardens, but not out of anger, out of something deeper, conflicted. "And if walking away means losing everything I built, then maybe it wasn't worth keeping." The silence that follows is sharp and full. A loud sound interrupts them, a metallic clatter from the far end of the room. Aoi moves instantly, pulling her behind him as he aims toward the noise. The light sweeps across the room, revealing a broken pipe. Steam hisses from the crack. Cecilia exhales, her hand still gripping the back of his jacket. "It's just pressure release," he says, lowering the weapon. She doesn't let go right away. Her pulse is racing. When she finally steps back, he turns slightly, his face close to hers. The space between them feels almost non-existent now. "You should stay behind me when things like that happen," he says quietly. "And you should stop assuming I need protection." He looks at her for a long moment. "You're impossible. Maybe that's why you keep me around." He almost smiles. The closest thing to warmth she's seen from him all night. The sound of dripping water fills the silence between them again. Cecilia finally sits down on one of the crates, exhaustion catching up to her. Aoi lowers himself beside her, their shoulders almost touching. The flashlight's beam fades to a soft glow on the floor. "Why do you do it?" she asks after a while. "All of this, the danger, the fighting." He doesn't answer at first, then quietly, "Because someone has to." She studies him. That's not an answer. He looks at her then, really looks. "Maybe it's the only one I have." They sit in silence. The tension in the air has changed, no longer fear, but something unspoken, something neither of them wants to name. Cecilia looks at him, and for the first time, she doesn't see the untouchable man who commands a hidden empire. She sees the weight he carries, the exhaustion behind his eyes. He turns to her at the same time, their faces inches apart. Neither moves, yet neither looks away. The world outside feels distant, the chaos muted by the small bubble of quiet they've found underground. Aoi's hand moves slightly, resting against the crate beside her, close enough that his fingers brush hers. The touch is hesitant, almost questioning. Cecilia doesn't pull back. For a heartbeat, time stills. The air between them tightens, then breaks. He leans forward just enough for his lips to touch hers, brief, restrained, but real. The kiss lasts only a second, but it changes everything. When he pulls away, his voice is low. "That was a mistake." Cecilia's heart pounds. "Then why didn't you stop yourself?" He doesn't answer. His gaze lingers on her, unreadable, before he stands and walks toward the tunnel entrance. "We should move," he says. "They'll start searching down here soon." Cecilia nods, forcing her voice steady. "Right." She picks up her bag and follows him. Neither speaks as they make their way through the tunnel again. The silence between them feels heavier now, but not empty, charged with everything left unsaid. At the far end, faint daylight glows through the exit grate. Aoi pushes it open, helping her climb through. When she turns back, he looks at her, calm again, composed, but his eyes hold a flicker of something different. She knows he'll never admit what that moment meant, but she doesn't need him to. She felt it. And as they step into the cold morning light, Cecilia realizes the danger isn't just outside anymore, it's in what she feels, and what he's starting to feel too. The days after the standoff pass in uneasy silence. The compound repairs itself piece by piece, but something has changed within its walls. The men speak in quieter tones, the air feels heavier, and everyone moves with the quiet awareness that they survived something they were not meant to. Cecilia goes back to her duties, but her hands still tremble sometimes when she picks up her instruments. The memory of that night clings to her skin. She tells herself it was just fear, adrenaline, the rush of survival. But when she thinks of Aoi standing beside her, calm in the chaos, her pulse quickens in a way she cannot control. He has not spoken much since the incident. His presence remains steady, his orders firm, but there is something distant in his eyes now, something that was not there before. Cecilia senses it even when he is silent. Tonight, she finds him alone in the west courtyard. The night air is cool, carrying the faint scent of rain. He stands near the edge of the reflecting pool, his reflection broken by the ripples on the water's surface. She hesitates before stepping closer. He doesn't turn at first. Only when she speaks does he move slightly, acknowledging her. "You are still awake," she says quietly. "So are you," he replies without looking at her. "I couldn't sleep, neither could I." For a moment there is nothing but the sound of the water. She moves beside him, their reflections meeting on the surface. He looks tired in a way that goes beyond the physical. "I keep thinking about that night," she says. "About what would have happened if things went differently." He finally looks at her. His eyes catch the faint light, unreadable but softer than usual. You did what you had to do. You saved a life. You mean yours? He studies her for a moment, then nods slightly. Mine too. Cecilia crosses her arms, trying to contain the quiet storm building in her chest. You could have died, Aoi. You throw yourself into danger like it doesn't matter. It matters more than you think, he says, but I cannot lead from behind walls. If I expect loyalty, I must be willing to face what I ask others to face. There it is again, that word, loyalty. It has followed her for months, heavy and constant. She wonders sometimes if loyalty is the same thing as love when you live in his world. He turns back to the water. You have done more than I ever expected, Cecilia. You have seen things no one outside this world should. You could have walked away. You know I couldn't. Maybe not before, but now you could. She looks at him, startled. What are you saying? He exhales slowly, his breath visible in the cool air. I am saying that the longer you stay, the deeper this goes. There will come a point when it will not be possible to turn back. She takes a small step closer. And what about you? He finally looks at her again. What about me? Do you ever wish you could turn back? His silence is answer enough. For a long moment, neither moves. The sound of the water and the wind fill the space between them. Cecilia studies his profile, the way his jaw tightens, the way his eyes shift to the horizon. She sees not the powerful man everyone fears, but the one burdened by everything that power costs. She wants to say something, to reach out, to touch his arm, but before she can, he speaks again. There are things I cannot escape, he says softly. But there are also things I would not want to escape, even if I could. She understands what he means. She feels it too, that invisible thread pulling them closer no matter how much they try to deny it. When he finally meets her eyes, the space between them feels fragile, charged. She can feel her heartbeat echoing in her chest. A voice from the hallway breaks the moment. One of Aoi's men calls for him, urgency in his tone. Aoi straightens immediately, his expression closing again. We will continue this later, he says, his voice composed once more. Cecilia nods, though her chest feels heavy. As he walks away, she realizes something she has been trying not to admit. It is not loyalty that binds her to Aoi anymore. It is something far more dangerous. Rain falls the next morning, soft but steady. The compound is quiet, except for the sound of it hitting the metal roofs. Cecilia walks through the corridor with her medical kit, checking on a few of the injured guards. It has become routine, yet something about today feels different. The silence presses on her more than usual. Aoi has locked himself in the upper office since dawn. No one goes in. No one dares. The men whisper that he is negotiating something dangerous, that another confrontation may be coming. Cecilia feels the unease spreading through every hallway. By afternoon, she decides to go to him. She tells herself it is to check on his wound, the one he keeps ignoring. But deep down she knows it is more than that. She knocks once, then pushes the door open. Aoi sits behind his desk, papers spread out before him. His jacket is gone, his sleeves rolled up, his posture straight but weary. He doesn't look up right away. When he does, the sharp edge in his gaze softens slightly. You should be resting, she says. So should you, he replies. She moves closer. You still haven't let me look at that cut. It's fine. It's not. Aoi sighs, leaning back in his chair. Fine then. She takes a seat beside him, pulling her kit closer. He doesn't move as she tilts his face toward the light, cleaning the faint wound along his temple. The silence between them is steady, unbroken. Her hand trembles slightly, not from fear but from awareness. You keep putting yourself in danger, she says quietly. It comes with the life I chose. And if one day it ends badly, then it ends badly. She lowers her gaze, the words heavy. That's not fair. Nothing in this world is fair, Cecilia. You of all people should know that by now. She finishes tending the wound, but doesn't step away. Her hand lingers for a moment against his jaw before she pulls it back. His eyes follow the motion. "Why do you stay?" he asks suddenly. She looks at him, startled. "Because you asked me to." "That was months ago. You've seen what this world is. You could leave if you wanted." "Maybe I don't want to." He studies her face, searching for something. "You think loyalty is enough to survive here?" "No." "But maybe loyalty isn't the only reason I'm still here." The air shifts between them. He stands, moving toward the window, his back to her. Outside, the rain turns heavier. Cecilia rises slowly. "You think I don't understand what you carry, but I see it. Every day. The weight you hide behind control. The pain you pretend isn't there." He doesn't respond, but his hands tighten at his sides. "You can trust me, Aoi. Not because I work for you, but because I care." He turns at that, his expression unreadable. "Care," he repeats softly, as if the word itself feels foreign. "Yes, I care, more than I should." The silence that follows is longer than any before it. The sound of rain fills the space, steady and relentless. Aoi steps closer, each movement measured. When he stops in front of her, the distance between them is almost nothing. His eyes hold hers, and for the first time, there is no wall between them. "You don't know what that means in my world," he says quietly. "Maybe not, but I know what it means in mine." He exhales slowly, and for a brief second the hardness in his expression fades. There is something raw there, something real. Cecilia lifts her hand, her fingers brushing against his sleeve. He doesn't pull away. The touch is small, almost hesitant, but it feels like a promise neither of them is ready to speak aloud. "If I could give you a different life, I would," he says. "I'm not asking for a different life," she replies, "just honesty." He looks at her for a long moment, then nods once, almost imperceptibly. Then, "You have it." For the first time since she met him, Cecilia believes him completely. The rain outside begins to slow. The air between them is still charged, filled with the weight of everything they have not said. She knows nothing about this can ever be simple. His world demands loyalty, silence, sacrifice. But in this moment, none of it matters. When he finally speaks again, his voice is low. "I will protect you, even if it costs me." "And I will stay, even if it costs me," she answers. Neither of them moves, but the truth of their words settles between them, binding them tighter than any deal ever could. The storm outside fades into quiet, leaving only the sound of their breathing. A fragile calm, a dangerous peace. They both know it will not last, but for now it is enough. Morning light spills through the tall windows of Aoi's office, pale and cold. The compound is unusually quiet, a silence that feels heavy with expectation. Cecilia stands by the door, her bag at her feet. She has been standing there for almost 10 minutes, trying to find the right words. Aoi sits behind his desk, motionless, reading a document that he has not turned in the last 5 minutes. The air between them is thick, filled with everything they have left unsaid. She finally breaks the silence. "I received the letter." He doesn't look up. "The one from the hospital?" "Yes. They accepted me. Full placement." Now he lifts his eyes. There is no surprise in them, only quiet understanding. "That is what you always wanted." "It is." "Then you should go." His words hit harder than she expects. She waits for more, for something that sounds like a reason to stay, but he doesn't add anything. "You mean that?" she asks softly. He nods once, the motion controlled, almost cold. "You deserve it. You have earned it." She swallows the lump in her throat. Everything in her wants to hear him tell her not to leave, that he needs her here. But Awimido never says what he feels. He commands, he protects, he hides. Cecilia takes a step forward. "You're sending me away." "I am letting you go," he replies. It sounds the same. "No, one is freedom, the other is exile." "Then which is this?" He looks at her again, his gaze sharp but unreadable. "That depends on you." Her eyes sting, but she refuses to cry. For months she has lived in his world. She has seen blood, violence, loyalty, and love all tangled together in impossible knots. She has seen the man behind the power, the quiet loneliness he hides. "You knew this would happen," she says, "from the beginning." "Yes, and you planned to let me walk away. If I could keep you safe by doing so, then yes." She lets out a small, bitter laugh. "Safe? There is no safe after this, Aoi. You pulled me into something I can never unsee." He stands then, slowly, his expression calm, but his eyes darker than before. "You found me, Cecilia. That night in the diner, you made a choice to return something that could have changed your life. You walked into my world long before I asked you to." She meets his gaze. "And now I have to choose again." He nods. "Yes." Outside, thunder rumbles in the distance, though the sky is still bright. The wind moves through the open window, carrying the faint scent of rain. It reminds her of every night they have survived together. "If I leave," she says, "it will be forever, won't it?" His silence is answer enough. She moves closer until only a few steps remain between them. The faint light catches the edge of his profile, tracing the tension in his jaw. She wants to reach out, to touch him, but her hands stay still at her sides. "I thought I could live in your world," she says quietly. "But the truth is, I can't. I want to save lives, not watch them end." Aoi lowers his gaze, the first sign of something breaking in his composure. "You were never meant to stay here. Then why did you keep me?" "Because I wanted to." The words are quiet, almost lost in the sound of the wind, but they stop her breath. He finally meets her eyes again, and there is no distance in them this time. No coldness, no control, just truth. "You think this life has no heart," he says, "but it does. I just forgot how to listen to it until you came." Cecilia feels tears burn behind her eyes. She shakes her head slowly. "Don't say things like that now." "Now is the only time left," he replies. The storm outside grows closer. The first drops of rain begin to hit the glass, faint but rhythmic. She looks at him, memorizing the man she has come to know. The calm surface, the storms beneath, the quiet strength that both protects and destroys. He steps closer. "If you go, you will never owe me anything. Not a promise, not silence, not loyalty. And if I stay, then you will owe me everything." Her heart beats faster. Everything sounds like too much, yet somehow not enough. The thunder grows louder. The room feels smaller now, as if the world outside has begun to fade away. She wants to tell him that she loves him, that she hates him for making her choose, that she can't imagine walking away. But the words won't come. He reaches out slowly, his hand brushing against hers. The contact is light, almost uncertain. Cecilia closes her eyes. The choice she has to make feels impossible. The touch of his hand is faint, almost fragile, but it feels heavier than any promise. The world outside dissolves into rain. Cecilia opens her eyes and looks up at him. His voice is low, calm, but trembling at the edges. You should go before I stop you. You won't, she whispers. You don't know what I am capable of. I do. A flicker of pain passes through his eyes. He lets out a quiet breath. You deserve a life that isn't bound to mine. And what about you? She asks. I made my choice a long time ago. She studies his face, searching for something. A crack, a sign, a plea. But all she sees is restraint. It has always been his armor. Cecilia takes a step closer. The rain outside turns fierce, the sound echoing through the glass. It feels like the sky itself is trying to push her toward an answer. You said once that this world has a heart, she says softly. Maybe it's you. You just don't know how to let it beat. He looks away, his jaw tightening. Don't do this. Do what? Make me feel what I shouldn't, then stop me. He doesn't move. He doesn't speak. The silence between them grows until it feels alive. Cecilia reaches up and touches his face. Her fingers brush the edge of his jaw, and his breath catches. You can't save me, he says quietly. I'm not trying to. I'm choosing you. He closes his eyes, and for a moment, the man everyone fears, the one who never bends, never breaks, looks almost human. You'll regret it, he murmurs. Maybe, but I'll still know I meant it. The distance between them vanishes. His hand moves to the back of her neck, gentle but certain. The kiss that follows is slow, deep, and desperate, the kind that says everything words have failed to. The sound of the rain fills the room, muffling the rest of the world. For a brief moment there is no danger, no blood, no choices. Only the two of them suspended in something real. When they pull apart, his forehead rests against hers. If you stay, he says softly, you lose everything you've worked for. If I leave, I lose you. The silence that follows is heavier than the storm. He takes a slow breath, then steps back. His voice is barely above a whisper. Then you should go now, before I find a reason to stop you. She stares at him, her heart breaking quietly in her chest. You're sending me away again. He nods. I am saving what I can of you. Cecilia picks up her bag. She hesitates at the door, her fingers tightening on the strap. The memory of his touch lingers like a shadow she can't shake. She turns once more. If I go, will you still be here? His expression softens, just slightly. Always. She gives a small nod, the kind that says everything else is too painful to voice. Then she leaves. The rain follows her down the steps of the compound, soaking through her clothes. She walks until the building is no longer in sight. But with every step, her chest aches more. She stops under a street light, the city stretching out before her, loud, alive, full of possibilities she once dreamed of. And yet, she feels like she left her pulse behind in that room. For a moment she considers turning back, but then she remembers his words. One is freedom, the other is exile. Maybe this is both. She wipes the rain from her face and keeps walking. Somewhere behind her, Aoi stands at the window, watching the lights fade through the storm. His reflection is faint in the glass, but his eyes follow her until she disappears completely. He whispers her name once under his breath. It sounds like a confession. Then he turns away and closes the curtains. The rain keeps falling, but inside the silence returns. In another life, she might have saved him. In this one, she loved him. That was enough. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, wait until you see what's coming next. It's even more powerful and inspiring than you can imagine. So don't go anywhere. click on that video showing on your screen right now to dive into another amazing story that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't regret it.